everybody, welcome back to our neck of the woods. So it is Friday, November 13th. Not too much has been done over the last few days. I worked a few. Weather wasn't great with rain and stuff, but we're getting there. So we got all the bracing down, which is a good thing. So Brian can come back and pick all of his stuff up. And tomorrow morning, we've got the crane coming out again. So we're gonna go ahead and finish up the garage. When we start this video for you guys tomorrow, hopefully we can also start getting some of the sheathing on the outside of the gable end over there and the gable end over here. We should go and pick up a boom lift today or have them deliver one, so that maybe after we get the trusses done on Saturday and Sunday, we can also get the sheathing started on the outside gable end over here, because we're not going to be able to pick up those zip R panels for the garage gable end without a boom. There's no way we're going to be able to do it on a ladder. Hopefully then this week we can get all of that finished up, and then we can start on what I'm considering like a they call it a ladder, I think. So on the outside of that gable end over there and the house over here, we want to extend some 2x4s or 2x6s out like a ladder going on up, put a fascia board on the outside of that, and then that basically will become truss number one, although it's not really truss. But when we put our sheathing on, the sheathing will start on that ladder extension for the overhang, and then it'll start to come in on the trusses, and that sheathing will kind of be bolted everything in together. So that's another project that we kind of have to do. Real quick though, I want to take this time just again to say thank you to all of our subscribers and to everybody who's watching our videos. We kind of hit that milestone that I was talking about several videos ago, where we want to get monetized, and we had to hit 4,000 hours and 1,000 subscribers. We're still not at 1,000 subscribers yet, but I think we hit that 4,000 hours of watch time in something like, it was 122 or 128 days or something. Really fast. We were blown away. And once we hit that milestone, there's really no point like to go back and kind of watch that. It's kind of like a check off box that's already done. But I was looking at some things yesterday, and in the past like 30 some days, we're at over 8,000 hours of watch time. So it's funny that you're like watching and watching and watching, and you're like hoping to get like kind of a goal, and then you stop watching, and then just a few days later you look back and it's like, oh my gosh, you more than doubled what you were trying so hard and working for. So I think it's hilarious. Hopefully one day when our subscribers hit, 1,000, right now we're probably at like 100 subscribers every week or so. It'll be funny if that starts happening with like 1,000 subscribers. So I just want to take this time again to say thank you all so much for subscribing, watching and stuff. It is funny, I looked at the analytics page on our YouTube studio, and it does show that 78% of people actually aren't subscribed. And a few of my friends actually said that, oh yeah, we're not subscribed. And I thought that was kind of funny, but I'm like, come on guys, if 78% of you who are watching over 8,000 hours of video were all subscribed, we would have hit that 1,000 subscriber already. So please, taking this time here and now to tell you, if you're not subscribed already, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button. All it takes is 1 second, and you'll really be helping us out there. What I have to go and finish up today before the crane gets here tomorrow is, again, to go back at these walls. We still got to hit the back wall here, getting it all taped up. I do have a roll of Tyvek out in the shed that I got to go and get, and again, we're going to use that on the windows here, just so the windows are kind of closed up for the winter. We are ordering our windows and doors this week. We got a lead time of about 7 weeks for them to get here, so I'm going to be installing windows and doors in like the middle of December, or actually January, which is going to suck, but I want to have these windows closed up here with just something to keep that wind out of there, leaves, and when the snow starts blowing, that it'll just hopefully hit that Tyvek and fall down. Again, I will have to put like a 2x4 brace in there, kind of like in a cross pattern or a T pattern, just so that it's not blowing that Tyvek and pushing it all the way in, and then it pulls the tape off the seams and stuff. But again, I want to finish this up, get the garage finished, so then that way when we get the last truss on, actually our first thing that we're going to do is probably the garage and not the house. If we have the garage weathered in, that's going to be a lot easier because all we have to do is block off 4 windows instead of a lot more windows and doors on the inside of the house, and it'll be giving us a little bit of a practice to do more of that ladder bracing that I'm talking up here. So there'll be an overhang up here on this end truss too, so we can practice with that, building out a ladder, and then we can start with the sheathing on just the garage. And if we get the garage knocked out, then basically we'll be completely insulated in here, or weathered in, and we don't have to worry about anything getting in here for the winter and snow. On a side note, yesterday I went ahead and picked up a whole bunch of lumber. So we've got 2x4s for the laddering. We bought 2x6s for the fascia boards, and we went ahead and picked up regular zip panels. Now, the crazy thing about this stuff going on right now, with everything going on in the country and stuff, is I called some like local lumber yards and stuff to see how much their pricing is on this stuff. And to my surprise, some of this zip paneling, especially the 5/8 roof paneling, they're charging more than my Zip R. And that Zip R again is that R6, so it's got over an inch of polyiso bonded to it, and they're trying to charge over $55 a sheet just for some 5/8 roof OSB. That is insane. And some places, if they don't carry it, they want to order it in. Like my local Home Depot wanted to order it in from Michigan, and again they wanted to charge I think over 40 something a sheet. Now there's another Home Depot down in, I think, West Virginia, about 80 miles away. They have it in stock, and they were asking, I think, $37. If you buy more than 80 sheets, it jumps down to like 34. Okay, that's not a bad deal, but it's a far way to drive, and you're going to be spending that in gas. And I'm not buying over 80 sheets. I only bought 20. I only need this stuff for the gable end of the house on each side, because the gable end on the garage here is going to be using the Zip R paneling. Now, I did a little bit more research and found a local Lowe's that's actually just right downtown, and they only wanted $27 a sheet. And I think even though I only bought 20, I think I still got a little bit of a discount, like a $2 or $3 discount. So it was more like $24 a sheet. I can't understand how it's all the same product, yet Lowe's, a local Lowe's, is just having it for 27. A Home Depot wants 37, but they'll do 34 if you buy more. But then if your local Home Depot doesn't have it in stock, they want to charge you over 40. These lumber prices and everything right now are just absolutely insane. So at this point, for going back to the 5/8 roof sheathing, I don't know what we're going to use. No one has the 5/8 zip in stock. And again, I'm not paying $55 a sheet. That is absolutely insane and just downright theft. There's no way that stuff costs that much, whether it's in demand or not. I'm not paying that. So for the roof sheathing, we may just have to go with a 5/8 product, whether it just be plain OSB or maybe spend $2, $3 more a sheet and go ahead with plywood. The engineer does have it spec'd out that it needs to be 5/8, so unfortunately we may have to just use something regular. I would prefer 5/8 or bigger, but I don't want to go something obviously too thick, because then the weight and the cost just goes back up. If it is plywood, I think it's a little bit easier, that we are going to use a peel and stick. So code recommends, or actually states, that in the first 2 rows you have to have an ice peel and stick, which I believe is a lot thicker. Then the rest of the roof for our metal roofing has to have just a regular thin laminate peel and stick put on, and that's just to protect the metal. If it condensates, you're not condensating down onto wood where it can rot out, so it'll hit like that peel and stick plastic and just kind of shed off. We still haven't decided if we're going to go with how we're going to do the roof. Our metal roofing company that we talked to said that they're okay with putting their metal roof directly on the peel and stick. I've never seen it done that way. I've always liked the idea of putting up furring strips, and there's a few reasons for that. Number one, if you put a furring strip on there first, it puts the metal off of the roof. Whether it's a peel and stick, just on wood, whatever you're doing, you're getting it up and away from there. What that does is creates an air channel underneath of the metal roof and whatever surface you're doing, so that the roof can breathe, number one. If there's condensation, it can dry out. And number two, it's kind of like an exhaust shield on a car. You don't just put something right next to an exhaust pipe because it's going to be really hot. That radiant heat will literally melt and burn stuff and peel your paint, and it's not a good idea. So that's why on exhaust pipes or exhaust headers, they put a heat shield that's spaced off of 1/2 inch or so. Now when you're putting your hand or something next to that heat shield, it's not as bad because that radiant heat off the hot source is hitting that heat shield. The heat shield is kind of dissipating, and you've got air on the outside of the heat shield and on the inside of the heat shield, and everything on the outside of the heat shield is a heck of a lot cooler. That's why when you see back in the 90s firefighters going into the oil fields of like Iraq, you've got a heat shield in front of you as you're walking up to it. That heat shield is blocking all of that radiant heat. So if the sun is beating down on our metal roof and we've got the metal roof bolted directly to the peel and stick, directly to the sheathing, yes, the metal roofing company says it's okay, but I'm just not comfortable with that. I would rather have the furring strips there, getting off of there, acting as a heat shield mostly, to keeping my sheathing and my peel and stick a heck of a lot better. So that doesn't heat up as much over time and maybe fail over time, because who knows what that peel and stick's going to look like in 10 years. What if the peel and stick completely peels off of the roof and now the seams have pulled apart, and then, you know, what is it doing for you then if you do have a leak or something? So I would rather have that air gap kind of protecting that, protecting my investment, if you will. The other thing I want to do that's kind of cool is the peel and stick, or I'm sorry, the furring strips. Most people put the furring strips horizontal. Now, I've seen Matt Reisinger, again on the Build Show, do them at a 45. And the thought process with that is, if you have a leak in your roof and your furring strips are horizontal, if you have a leak, water's going to go down to that furring strip and then just sit there. It's not really going to be able to run off any which way. It can build up. It can't go anywhere. So if you take your furring strips and turn them at a 45, and then when you put one furring strip to another furring strip, if you leave a little bit of a gap, if you do have a major leak, water goes down on the peel and stick, hits that furring strip, then gravity takes it down at its 45, it finds its gap in between two furring strip, runs down, and then if you do that all the way down to the eaves or to the ends of your trusses, you leave a little bit of space basically behind your gutter. The water then can run behind your gutter and then drain on out. So that way, again, if you have a leak, you're protecting your furring strips from rotting out. You're protecting water just sitting on your peel and stick. So I think that is the way that I'm gonna do it. But again, I'm gonna talk to the roofer one more time who's supplying the metal or even putting the metal roofing on. And I want to get their thought process on that, even though they recommend furring strips aren't needed. And then one other thing in that lumber load that I bought, again, that was just more 2x4s for all of the bracing, hooking these up. That's getting the ladders all done. I went ahead and bought some 1x3s instead of 1x4s that I was talking about, because it's a little bit cheaper to go with 1x3s, and basically a 1x3 is still 2.5 inches wide. So what I'm doing with those 1x3s, and again, I was just testing this out last night, is going back to the New England style of hanging our drywall. As you can see up there, I now have an outside board for the drywall to go up into, and then we've moved over one. So I've got those 16 inches on center. And again, you still have a 2.5 inch nailing surface. So while again, I said before I was gonna use a 1x4 to give you 3.5 inches of nailing surface, I mean, let's be honest, a 2.5 inch nailing surface is more than enough for 2 pieces of drywall to come together on this side and to come together on this side. And so far so good. I've used basically a 2-inch nail to shoot up through that 1x, go up into the 2x4 on the truss. I actually pulled down on it with some of my weight, and I'm about 160 pounds. So that's more than enough to hang drywall and then to start packing insulation in there. So I think it'll do fine. And I'm using a ring shank nail, so that's having even more holding power than a smooth nail. And when we put the drywall on, I will use screws, and those screws will probably be long enough to go through the 5/8 drywall, at least where the trusses are. They will probably be able to go up through the 1x3s and even hit into the truss. So we're talking a lot of holding power. So far, again, I like the way that is, because if you notice once more, if you're hanging a lot of drywall and a lot of insulation, before your drywall was only going to be supported there and be supported there. So all of that insulation was just going to be pushing down in here in this void. But now that you have this grid pattern here, and as it keeps going down for 16 inches on center, you now have that lateral support right there that you can't pull down on that board or push on your drywall or have your heavy insulation be pushing on there too hard. So I'm going to get back at those later. Today, I just want to go ahead and officially call the garage done. So I want to finish this back wall here, get all the windows cut out, tape up some Tyvek, and get it weatherproofed in, finish off some mastic around the bottom and around all the nail holes and stuff like that. And then when we finish off the trusses again tomorrow, we'll go ahead and finally pick what roof sheathing we want to do. And then probably on Sunday or Monday, if we get the boom lift out here, we can sheathe it, we can finish this gable end, and we can call this garage officially done, weatherproofed in. And maybe even then we can call the garage people out here that are going to put in our doors, and maybe we can get this thing fully weathered in. All right, so I'm gonna wrap today up here. We got the, what is that, the west wall all done. It's all taped, it's all masticed up the corner, down along the bottom. We just gotta get ready for trusses tomorrow to go on. Aaron's in the house cleaning up all of the screws because I took down the ICF braces real fast and there's screws everywhere, plus concrete chips and foam and everything else. So she's sweeping and cleaning up in there. And then also where we put the foam in between the Fox block and the Nudura block, I did it on the inside and the outside of the house. So this right here, she's basically cutting that back. So that way on the inside of the house, it's foam straight down and then subfloor. So that way if you go and put drywall there, you're not hitting the foam. So she's cutting all that out and cleaning that up real quick. But like I said, this should wrap up today here. There's not much more to do. We just got to get these trusses on tomorrow, start laying some sheathing, and finally get a roof on this guy. I do have to go into the shed and pull out that Tyvek to put up on the windows. It's buried in the back. I got like 100 things to move. But everything else is looking really good. So we should be ready for tomorrow morning, and we'll see you guys then. All right, well, that's gonna be a wrap on today. Crane got out of here in less than 4 hours, so that's good that we don't have to pay for equipment rental time over 4 hours. Unfortunately, because today is Saturday, the operator gets time and a half automatic 8 hours. And he even said that when he was leaving. He's like, you know, I'm still getting paid. And I was like, yeah, I know, I already talked to your boss. That's the way you guys set it up on the weekend. So unfortunately, again, the minimum, even throughout the day or the week, is 4 hours on equipment, 4 hours on operator. But on Saturday, it's time and a half, 8 hours minimum for an operator. And on Sunday, it's actually double time for the operator. And I think the equipment actually goes up. But as you can see behind me, all of the trusses are up. They are tall. I mean, God, I could set a basketball hoop up there 25 feet and play out here once we get a concrete pour out here. But even a 10-footer up there is no problem playing out here. And even in the garage, if you look, I haven't measured it yet. I know there was actually this 2x4 right here. That's 2 8-footers put together, and I think my buddy Ryan last week in the last video measured it at 16.8, and it's at the top of the truss. So 16, what, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, about 4.5, 16, 4.5, or 15, 4.5 is how tall that is up there to the top of the ceiling. So definitely plenty of room for a car lift. That storage space up there is gigantic, but if you look, we only got 3 common trusses here and they stop. So the storage is kind of only in the middle, but 1 truss in from the common truss that is up here next to the house. And I know some people are going to ask, why did I pick a common? Well, the reason is I didn't know how, if I used an end truss over there, I didn't know how it was going to fall with the turned 2x that are going up and down. Obviously they should fall exactly, so you should just be able to screw a screw through them, hit the other one and pinch them together. The only problem with that is end trusses are not allowed to span gaps. They're supposed to be sitting on the wall going down. So technically that first truss there couldn't be an end because there's nothing that it's sitting on. It's not sitting on a wall or a ledge. Now, granted, you've got a 2x8 going, or a 2x4 going all the way across there. I could have put 2 screws every 8 inches going down into the new DuraBlock, and that first truss would have been supported up if it would have been an end truss. But to me, it's just easier. Use a common. You don't have to hit every 8 inches on center. That common is allowed to span that distance, and I'm only going to screw it into the ICF there just cause. And when we start pushing drywall up on it, just to kind of hold it still so it doesn't give a lot of flex. But as the common truss goes like this at an angle each way, as it intersects the end truss for the house, as it's going up and hits every one of those end trusses turned sideways, we can put a screw through there and pinch it together. But we do still have to put OSB sheathing in there first before we pinch everything together. So there's a 1/2 inch of room basically in between those 2 trusses that we need to drop the OSB in, tape it in, and then we close off basically the garage exhaust fumes and gas fumes and everything from getting up into the house or getting up in the attic space. Now, before my dad left, the other thing that we started working on is trying to shim all the trusses, the house trusses. We did run a string line from one end truss to the other. Now, the garage trusses we don't have to worry about. I built those walls myself by hand and cut each 2x8 by hand, so the garage trusses are completely flat. There's no shimming or anything here, but the ICF walls, a little bit off. Some are worse than others. It's actually a giant pain in the butt to be shimming and trimming. So what I kind of thought about was I may actually not have to shim or trim much. And the reason why that is the house roof, if you remember, we've got a front and a back porch going on this house. So for right here, for example, if I look down right over here, right about here, is the end of the porch. Now, if we do a 2-foot overhang over here, that means that the truss is going out that way and then have the roof slope down this way for the porch. That means that only basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trusses are actually going to be exposed where they're running up. So if there's a dip or a raise in the middle, you're not going to see it because, again, we're going to put on, I forget what it's called, but like an LVL beam coming off of the middle of the main roof, coming straight off over here for the porch, and then LVLs, 2x, whatever, are going to be going this way, making trusses, going down this way, having a roof go the opposite direction of the main house. So if we do the roof, the porch that way and do another one of those off the front of the house, it's not going to matter how off these are. The drywall is going to be a different story, but again, the commons end at about truss 8, and then we have 12 scissor trusses. So if that end is different from the scissors and the scissors are different from that end, you might not see any raises or pitches because they're on their own little kind of playing field. I got 3 different playing fields, if you will. So I'll go up there and measure again to see where the scissors end, and then just see how bad like the kitchen ceiling is going to be, see how bad the living room ceiling is going to be, and then see how bad the master bedroom ceiling is going to be. If the dips and rises don't fall within each zone, then it's not a big deal. And the porches, again, are going to cover up this anyway. It's only the drywall we have to worry about. But again, we've got those 1x3s going in that I could put a shim under that 1x3 and make those 1x3s perfectly straight for the drywall. So we may be able to get away with not adjusting anything on the sill plate, and that would be fantastic. Now, one major boo-boo that I made, which luckily was not that bad, is for some reason, I told you guys this before, we've got a little surprise going in our house. I'm just gonna say somewhere right about, let's say right here. The problem is when we set the last end truss and have that scissor connected to it, this item that's going here was all the way over here. Well, if it's all the way over here, you can't put any window trim on this and the ICF. So I got scared, so we bumped this truss over a little bit and then started pulling these trusses this way. We still fell on our 22.5 inches in the middle, or 24 inches on center, coming over this way, but it was still falling like kind of right here on the end. And then you got like no trim in here for this window. And I was freaking out and I was really disappointed. How could I do that? What did I do wrong? And then we set the last garage truss and I looked down, there's a common truss left on the ground. So we quickly ran up here to try and get the crane out of here. We cut all of the bracing on this last end truss and scissor truss. We cut all the bracing. I hooked the crane back up to this truss, moved it over about 4 or 5 inches or so, which then gave us this big gap in between the common truss here and the end truss there, and then we slid in that other common. So we're back to less than 24 inches on center, so our spanning is great. And I know you guys are probably already noticing, why are these 2 scissors so close together? And that's just how the layout fell. Obviously right in through here you've got 24 inches on center, but then in between this scissor, and then the scissor connected to the end truss, we actually probably could have eliminated that middle scissor, and then the scissor connected to the end probably would have made the 24 inches on center, because if you look in the gap right here, you're definitely under 24 inches. So we could have moved this end truss even more over and eliminated that scissor altogether, but it's just the way that it fell. The house is actually slightly smaller than it's supposed to be on Blueprint. The new Durablocks just didn't go to the full 52 foot 8 inches that it should have. I think it's only 52.6. So there's just little variances in what I had planned, but I'm just so glad that it worked out. I'm glad we were able to have one more common truss, move this one, bump it over that way, fit one in there, so you're keeping your 24 inches on center, so the roof is safe. And now I've got all the room in the world to attach what I want to, which again, it's about 7 inches or so. So that item is going to fall right in through here, and then we still have plenty of room to attach window trim. And on the front of the house, that's obviously not a problem because the door's over there and the window's over there. Nothing's going to be in the way of what I want to do on that side. But again, that's something, a little something that I'm going to show you later down the road that I'm going to have put up in here. So I'm going to wrap this video up here. So this again was truss number 2, attempt number 2 to get it all finished. This should have all been in one video, but unfortunately the crane had to leave last time because it got dark. But I'm lucky they came out today, and I'm lucky we got it done, and I'm lucky it warmed up, because when we started today it was 23 degrees Fahrenheit. The sill plates were completely frosted. Walking up there as we were setting the trusses over was a little scary. There was ice on everything, but I'm glad it got up to about 52 today and we were able to get it done. I do not like working in cold weather, but Luckily, this Ariat jacket and this hat really helped out. They're both new, again, from my wife and my mom on my birthday. And then I've got those bib overalls that my wife bought me last spring. They worked great, and I actually left my sweatpants on. So I was toasty warm except for my fingers. Even with gloves on, they were frozen. So every time we had a truss set, we had to get down and kind of warm back up. But I'm just lucky we got it done. So stay tuned for the next video. We're probably going to be knocking out more of the drywall strips to see how those are going to go. We've got to get the roof sheathing ordered, and I don't know if I'm actually going to be doing it or not. The metal company that I'm about 99% sure I'm going with, they did offer to sheathe the entire house for about $4 grand, and that's just labor. That's not including the actual material. I don't know if I want to pay that much money, but it would be nice to have a whole crew of guys out here basically sheathe the house and the garage in one day. That's just something that I have to decide. Like I said, I kind of want to knock out the garage myself and learn and kind of do it there. But I will have to pay for a boom lift, so that's an increased cost too on my end, as opposed to theirs. It's just, you know, going to be like $4,000 or whatever. But I don't want to sheathe too much because, again, we don't know where the porches are going to go. So I've got to get all of those front overhangs where the porches are going to be. They have to be cut off and cut flush because we don't really want to look up and see that and see roof if a porch is going to go there. But again, that may be up to Erin, and she may not actually mind to see an overhang within a porch overhang like that. I know some people go all the way up to the rafters that you can see them exposed, or you may just put a flat ceiling on it and that would all be hollow porch attic deck up in there. So I don't know what Erin wants to do yet, but again, we're wrapping this up here. Please like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the video, and we will see you guys next time.